Hello, and thank you for tuning into this webinar. We're going to be discussing a very interesting topic on how conversational AI can play a transforming role in the IT help desk. My name is Suhail Nair, and I'm an executive director responsible for partner relationships at Uniphore. And I'm very excited to have Lawrence Sathiaraj, global delivery head from Tech Mahindra, here with me today. Thank you, Lawrence, for joining us and agreeing to share your thoughts on this subject. I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Thank you for having me, Suhail.
And for the benefit, for those who have tuned in, could you just introduce Tech Mahindra and the role you play there?
Sure. So Tech Mahindra, I think it is extremely strategic for us to grow our end user computing business globally. And we are possibly among the top, 6 or 7 players in this particular space, both in digital workplace as well as in the end user computing space. And I head the global end user computing practice for Tech Mahindra. So that's the brief intro on what I do.
Excellent. So Lawrence, post pandemic, a lot of companies were forced to adopt digital transformation, right? Employees, were taken away from their, comfort zone of working in an office environment, going into a home environment. We kind of left them physically isolated, and also kind of churned, the demand on, calling a service desk. So with this in mind, right? I mean, what changes and what trends have you seen which has affected the IT service desk support nowadays?
Sure, so yeah. Let me start by saying it's continuing to evolve, and we are seeing newer trends as we go by, and it's probably kind of aligned with the way the COVID virus is mutating and evolving as well. Mm-hmm. So let's first, realize one thing, that the recovery phase is not going to be static, right? And it will not occur on a particular day, and unlikely it will, disappear all of a sudden. So the entire uncertainty around the vaccination ability to deal with continuous mutation is going to be a major concern. And given this reality, what we're seeing a lot of our clients looking at, the buying trends are they're looking at a mix of nearshore, offshore, onshore. So the geo mix to kind of de-risk some of the risk associated. And also, we are interesting to see that work from home and on-premise model, there is a good mix of 50-50 to, even some cases 70-30 is something that we see customers coming up. And at the client side, I think what they are looking at is more resilient workforce. So we see that evolving policy changes, which is human resource policy changes and practices within the client organization. And finally is the transformative change and using the digital technology. So in nutshell, the remote working is here to stay. And that's being supported by the future survey. I think the topic was around prioritizing digital workplace. And clearly basically indicates almost about 87 to 90% of CIOs prioritizing the tech investment for a sustained remote work, and also supported by other analyst surveys, which indicates 40 to 50% of the employees to be working remotely, as against 30%, prior to the pandemic period. And we're also going to take advantage of the gig economy that's kind of rising now, and we're already evaluating products, platforms which are high-skill platforms like the Upwork, TopTel, Incentive, in order for us to facilitate this. The second major trend that we see, obviously, in pandemic helped us in driving the digital disruption, and this is actually riding on the changing user expectation. So we see the Gen Z is more advanced as far as technically and IT savvy, and the expectations for an agile, flexible work style. It includes from Internet of Things to artificial intelligence, virtual reality, cloud, mobility, etc. So these are some of the trends, and what we see from a buying pattern from customers, most contract commercial, the discussions are getting tied down to user experience level metrics and even outcomes. Mm-hmm. There are some challenges around that, but we'll probably talk about that a little later. Clients also does not want to be actually want to be technology agnostic, so they don't want to be tied down. So they want a more an OpEx model, to say so, from a ownership of any tools or technology perspective. So we will only pay as per the usage. The last but not the least is basically the value-based sourcing trends that we see, where the customers are asking for an OpEx model with a year-on-year cost reduction, with a built-in flexibility to pay as the demand behaves. So those are some of the high-level trends that we see, but there is a significant importance given for the user experience and how we manage that.
No, absolutely. And see, from our perspective as well, see, we are also, working with partners such as yourselves. We are also seeing, a heavy demand, because what some of our partners are telling us is that volumes are themselves kind of have gone up post-pandemic, because I think of the sheer type of change of work environments, right? So a lot of our partners, the solutions that we are taking to them is how to drive efficiency with working with the existing set of folks that they have on the help desk. How are they able to do more? How are they able to be consistent, as well as how much can you actually shift left? So those are some of the pain points that are coming to us for helping with a solution. So it's interesting how both worlds kind of are trying to address the problem. So in redefining this help desk experience, right? What would you say today are your top three challenges in terms of deploying a service desk?
Yeah, from a service provider on the SI perspective, when we are working with our customers, there are three challenges that really come up on top. The first one being the outcome-based service level, and this service level is based on experience level. So we have our own, platform or a framework called Texla, which basically measures, monitors the end user, experience level. Now, the challenge here is how do you define and measure the end-to-end process that impacts the user experience, and how do you fix accountability on who owns that experience? So that's a difficult challenge. While we are contractually signing for the outcomes and output, and we take the accountability for the user experience, but the end-to-end process is not necessarily under the SI or a service provider. The second that we see is, again, from what I said as a trend, the OpEx framework, demand-based contractual agreements. Now, this requires extremely strong, baselining forecasting ability to, just as a not limited to volumetric, but we also need to look at the personas, issues, change management, and clients, growth with regard to organic or inorganic aspirations, and to be able to predict what the volume would be, and then manage capacity on a continuous basis, because we're going to get paid irrespective of what the volumetric is based upon the capacity the customer is using. The last third is basically driving user adoption. Now, as a service provider, I need to I do not actually have a direct control on the user behavior. And however, the market or the client expects us to commit contractually for savings from the digital efficiencies over the contract period. So we would literally agree on the efficiency at 30-35% in the beginning of the contract, under good faith, saying that we will be able to not only implement but also drive the adoption. Sure. So these are some of the challenges where we engage with the customers, and we explain our situation, and we are able to, with good governance model in place, we are able to work with the customer, and they do understand and appreciate the boundaries that each of us need to work with.
And Lawrence, I think in your narrative, you actually brought up user experience quite a bit, right? I think it's the the front end of what you're trying to achieve as well. So with user experience in mind, what do you think the role conversational AI plays in it? How do you think conversational AI can impact user experience?
Absolutely, I think it has a very significant role to play. And it basically starts off with one, measuring and there is some deep advanced analytics that provides. It can be both real time and it can also be historical in nature. But this will allow the agents or the service desk analyst who are handling the call right up front, the knowledge and the expertise that is required to manage the persona and provide differentiated services to the customer. The second area, I think the advanced analytics will also be able to provide is, create kind of a cockpit kind of an environment for a help desk agent, and where he is, having real-time information, and he can actually learn on the job and improvise to meet the customer requirement. The conversation AI actually provides something most important. I mean, it is kind of a counterintuitive to say that the systems or the machines understand humans better than the humans itself. But because they are data based, so obviously they would be able to kind of give us the real-time data on the sensitivities and the sentiments of the customer, which can be definitely utilized in how we handle a particular call. There are other areas such as the some of the targets that we have set for some of the implementation that we have done around this area is basically the automated ticket categorization, and we've seen a significant success. The real-time analytics ability to not only analyze the volume but also types, personas, and the reason for spikes, repetitive calls, and so on and so forth. Missed routes are getting reduced by through this implementation, and authentication of the call. So the overall handle time and the after call work time that it reduces, and it definitely impacts the user experience. And so the user centricity is critical to how we basically plan. And I think those are some of the critical metrics for us to measure. And in some of the implementation, we are already seeing a significant benefit and very good positive feedback from our customers.
No, that's excellent, and it actually is very much in line with what we are also seeing with our partners. So some of the areas where our partners are utilizing products like Uniphore is a but today, I think the terminology being used is the great resignation, right? There is so much of attrition happening and learning curve, to enable, resources who are servicing the desk. There are solutions that we are coming and helping our partners in addressing that, right? Reducing learning curve. It is next best action, guided workflow are some of the examples that we have brought in, as well as, automated provisioning. So based on the conversation that is happening between the user and the help desk professional, based on that conversation, not only is the notes that are being captured, which gets entered into the ITSM tool, kind of consistent. It is also triggering backend processes where, provisioning and things like that are also getting automated. So these are some of the examples that we are seeing in some, and also, what we're trying to address with some of our partners. So would you be able to share some examples in terms of, how you've utilized Uniphore, in your operations?
So we've done multiple, implementation, and actually the journey has just begun. And I can probably refer one of a large implementation that we have undertaken. We are halfway into that implementation. This is for one of the largest chemical manufacturer in the world. It's a global consolidation that we have done for the customer with close to 12 languages that we support, and 400 plus agents supporting the user base across the globe. The complexity around this particular program is very, very high, and where I think user experience in a diverse environment is extremely critical for us to manage. And that's where we need an automation. It's humanly not possible for us to listen, record calls, route calls, and so on and so forth. So that is where I think the Uniphore and that we have jointly undertaken this implementation is. So we basically started like any other implementation, focused on the user experience analytics, which is like a postmortem kind of a activity to replace our current call audit mechanism. And slowly, as we started gaining confidence and even the customer getting excited, we moved into automated caller workflow environment, which basically does both the persona identification. We did a consulting assignment for the customer on the persona identification, but now the system is able to calibrate and identify the certain personas based on speech analytics and the voice biometric that it is able to record. And then, it's basically the real-time analytics on volumes and types and spikes and rerouting. Those, as I mentioned earlier, those are things that we are definitely implementing it. From an end result perspective, what we are able to see is there is an increase in first call resolution and the repeat calls are coming down. And it is also impacting the NPS score positively. We are happy with that. And overall, I think there is productivity gain for us because of lower after call work, after handle, the handle time, and as well as the whole time coming down definitely is a positive impact on the customer experience. So this is not just applicable on a single voice channel, but it is on the multi-channel. We're able to recognize the customer persona and the issue type, and then route it according to the right channel that they can customer can kind of opt for.
That's excellent. And in the last question, I promise. So, what are the pitfalls that an organization needs to avoid in this whole transformation journey that you're for a service desk implementation?
Yeah, commonsensical is don't bite off more than you can chew. Before you make this grand decision of your plan to transform, take a step back and think about it. Setting overly aggressive goals, particularly when you come to implement, there are many variables involved in it, can kind of cause certain heartburns down the road. So I think you have to be very realistic there. Second is the automation. When we talk about automation, it is viewed as cost-cutting measure and things like that. But automation should support the help desk strategy. It is not your help desk. Okay, so we try to force fit our customers into some of the digital channels, instead of allowing things to evolve. So there is a rush to get 35-40% of the volume diverted towards self-help, self-service, and self-heal. But the variable is the human thing here, right? That has to evolve. You will always have customers who need answers to complex questions, or they have more than one question to take help on. So the idea should be to provide the right experience, not trying to say, I will have 30% on my chatbot, on my portal, and on my mobile, and so on and so forth. And the human, touch should not be more than that. So the whole idea is, see what is strategic. If user experience is strategic imperative for you, then your design should complement that thought process.
No, I think that's very well articulated, Lawrence. I mean, that's fantastic. I expected nothing less. This was a fantastic interaction. I really, got a good perspective from your side. In closing, would you have to share anything from your side as well, Lawrence?
No, I think, in nutshell, that as I said, the journey has just begun. I think conversational AI has a large role to play in the way things will transform in the future. Some of the ongoing initiatives that are taking place, I think conversational AI has a large role to play. So I think it's just journey has begun. Everybody would need to take this journey and jump into this entire running train. And we will get in next 2 to 3 years where we want to be, which is kind of a digital workforce and digital support environment, as I as 60 to 70%. So that would be my advice to everyone, to say, make the beginning now, and old ways of working will not take us to where we want to be. Let us try and thrive in the new realities and the new norms.
Thanks again, Lawrence. I really look forward to the partnership that we have, and very excited at the prospect of working with you and your team in terms of transforming the operations. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Suhail.